is 9 o'clock. We'll go ahead and I'll ask that if we stand for invocation and pledge of allegiance. We bow in an attitude of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you with heavy hearts this morning. We pray for our comrades around the state of Maryland, first responders. We pray for the families and loved ones of those that have been involved in this very tragic accident this morning, early hours in the Baltimore Harbor area. Lord, we just lift up all the rescue personnel and the folks that are dealing with this tragic situation, and just pray that you continue to watch over them, protect them, give them guidance and direction. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this day here in Washington County, that we can honor you by serving the citizens of Washington County. May we do so that is pleasing to you, and we ask for your guidance and blessings upon this day. We ask it in your Son's name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll call our meeting officially to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of March 12th. Have a motion and a second.
Motion to approve March 12th minutes.
Second. Motion and second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you very much. And we'll move right into commissioners' reports and comments. Mr. Wagner, you want to go first?
Sure. Good morning. A lot going on in the community. A lot of events. It's just something happening all the time. Last night was the MML meeting, Maryland Municipal League, mayors, hosted by Hagerstown. It was a nice event at Western Enterprise Volunteer Fire Company. River Roasters down in Williamsport had their grand opening. You got to stop by and check it out. It's they brew their own coffee and some food and things like that, but it's investing in the community with several businesses they own. Thank you to the Parks and Rec, Jamie Dick and all of his staff for putting on another successful, great Run Fest, St. Patrick's Day downtown. I think he had maybe 800 plus runners and participants. And so I wanted to thank them. It's always a really sort of a fun event. And I was able to attend Zion Reformed Church installation of Reverend Scott Winnitz as the pastor there. So congratulations to Zion Reformed for getting a new pastor. I think that's it for me.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Kiefer, go next.
Sure. Thank you. Certainly, as you said in your opening prayer, Commissioner Barr, our prayers to the victims, the emergency responders with the bridge collapse in Baltimore. We had our own emergency event yesterday in Hancock. Thankfully, it appears like there's no life loss, but I had a conversation with the mayor of Hancock yesterday afternoon, and he expressed some frustration, some difficulty in dealing with blighted properties that a lot of our municipalities and towns also deal with. And as we were talking, we were trying to help, decide what's the county's role. We provide some code enforcement and dealing with property issues, and what exactly is our role, and what tools might we have to further address those issues. At first, blighted properties, it's an appearance issue, overgrown weeds, broken windows, stuff like that. But, left unattended to for decades, that nuisance becomes, a severe hazard to the community. I'd like to say over times, neighbors have property rights too in dealing with certain zoning issues. That if that building didn't collapse straight downwards, but maybe to the left or right, someone else's property was affected, or if it fell forward, pedestrian on the street could have been affected. Just a couple years ago, we had a collapse with the building right next door to us. And so I guess where I'm going with that, I'd like to see if maybe at a future meeting, maybe we can have an agenda item to kind of flesh out a little bit about what our role is, and when we provide those services to municipalities, code enforcement, what we can do, what opportunities, what legal options might be open to us, to further deal with those blighted properties. Again, it's not just an appearance issue, it's a safety concern over time. And if we're responsible for that, I'd like to know exactly what we could do to enforce, better safety standards for blighted properties. So that's my concern for today. Thank you.
And Zach and I will work on getting that information for you.
And if we can bring in any of the municipalities to the table when we have that conversation, I'm sure they each have different properties and kind of unique, issues with those properties that another town might have. But if we provide the services to the municipalities, I'd like the towns to be part of that conversation. Thanks.
Mr. Harvey?
Yeah, I echo those comments, and, I went with Randy and Jeff to the River Bottom Roasters, and they roast coffee there as well as brewing it, and they have a very nice business model. It was very good to be there. Importantly, this week is, an important Holy Week for Christians, and we have Good Friday coming up and Easter on Sunday. So my thoughts are to all of those who believe in Jesus Christ and Him as our Savior. And, I hope everyone has a blessed and fruitful week in remembrance of how important this is for mankind. Thirdly, I went to the Fire Association meeting down in Dargan, and again, I want to echo the comments about the importance of public safety and our fire and rescue. Not only do we have the building collapse that Wayne talked about, and we see what's going on in Baltimore, but there have been some fires in Hagerstown, an apartment fire that was, had some stunning pictures, but folks left the Fire Association meeting the other night to go and respond to that in Hagerstown, and thankfully, our response teams, our professionalism, the training showed through, and job well done, and they continue to do great work for the county and the city and all the municipalities. A reminder to everybody that the Commission on Aging has a gala coming up April 20th. And it's at St. James, and it's a big fundraiser, their annual fundraiser, and we discussed that and a number of other issues at the Commission on Aging Advisory Council that I'm a part of. So let's see if we can support that. Later today, this morning, we're going to hear from our finance chief. She gives us a preview on the budget, and I'm looking forward to hearing that. We're trying to balance revenue with needs and obligations here in the budget. Allocation in our decisions remains extremely important with those limited resources and the monies that our taxpayers provide us, and we have to be very judicious in how we allocate those resources. A couple of the big issues, we continue to hear and wrestle with the need as expressed by the school board and the superintendent for almost a $10 million increase in the school budget. So, we need more discussion on that. The Commission on Aging has a significant boost that they requested. And then we have lots of other needs, the continued transition of EMS, pension shortfalls, roads. We have a lot on our plate, capital expenditures that we have to invest in. And we haven't had any discussions about enhancing revenue in any significant way to date. At some point, I hope we do get into some serious discussion about what those options may be. President Barr, you mentioned last week your support possibly for a rise of the, or removing the past decrement to the income tax rate and returning it to the 3.2% that it had been. There was some discussion about maybe some progressive characteristics being incorporated into something. I'm looking forward to further discussion on that, and because we have more work to do between now and when we complete this budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Klein?
Good morning, everyone. A lot of things were going on, as Commissioner Wagner said. I did attend the MML meeting last night hosted by the town of Hagerstown at Western Enterprise. I also attended this weekend the Boonesboro EMS Awards Banquet. I had the honor of swearing in their officers. I appreciate that. It was well attended, and you get to see the families behind the faces that are there to protect us every day. I also attended the River Bottom Roasters event. Thursday, instead of going to the Fire Association meeting, I represented us at the Maryland Film Festival grand opening at their reception and got to meet several of the honorees. It was nice to see so many people from outside of Hagerstown and complimenting us on having the festival, and that continues to be a tradition. And thanks to Tom Reifert and Nicole Hauser for their efforts for that. Steve Kimmett, who owns the Captain Bender's Tavern in Sharpsburg, opened up another restaurant in Boonesboro called The Admiral. I attended the opening of that event. I want to thank him for his efforts in the community for providing jobs and opening up a second venue. I also want to thank Jamie Dick and his crew in the city of Hagerstown for the Run Fest and the 1 mile walk. Jamie told me this morning 835 people had registered, and that's one of the largest registrations he's had since the beginning of COVID. And then a week ago, I also attended the Halfway Fire Company. It was their their awards banquet. It was their 75th anniversary. And you see generations after generations of families sitting there at that banquet to help serve our community. And on another note, this past month was Zach Greenlee's 5th anniversary at Trackside. If we know, Zach is another young entrepreneur at age 19, took on a restaurant at age 19, and now he has 2. Went up there and had lunch with some of the staff, and he was very appreciative of seeing us there. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Klein. Yes, for me, it's been a very busy 2 weeks. Back to, I guess it was the 13th, I attended the Washington County Board of Education's Essential Service Personnel Award banquet, and the finalist awardee was Norma Kelly. Norma is representing transportation at our school bus drivers, whose route currently serves Rockland Woods Elementary and Eastern Elementary, South Hagerstown High School, and Ruth Ann Monroe Primary School. She has been making a difference for Washington County Public School students for 11 years. So again, congratulations to Norma Kelly, and it was a very nice event, and thanks to all of those that participated and worked very diligently for our school system in a service personnel format. So a couple other things. I've been appointed by Governor Wes Moore to serve on a Maryland Corps Service and Volunteerism Committee. We had a meet and greet at the U.S. Naval Academy on Wednesday the 13th. The governor attended, and we had a very good meeting. The very next day, back in Annapolis, on the 14th, we had our first full official board meeting, meeting other folks that have been appointed to that committee from across the state, and giving our marching orders and electing officers and an agenda item moving forward for a number of our meetings later this year. Also in attendance to that meeting, Lieutenant Governor Rhonda Miller was also in attendance, and it was a very fruitful and worthwhile meeting that day. A couple other things that we have is I received yesterday maybe some of my fellow commissioners have received this also. I'm not sure. It was sent to me directly. The Boonesboro American Legion Auxiliary. I think the former mayor of Boonesboro is, or the current mayor, I guess, is heading up a Memorial Day parade on Sunday, May 26th. I've got all the, if you want to ride in the parade, participate in the parade, whatever, all the information here to reach out to Carol Long, Mayor Howard Long's wife, that's in charge of the parade. I assume along with this, the day before, I don't know if anyone's received anything from the Sharpsburg parade. Normally we get, I guess, an invite, or
They've sent us,
I haven't seen anything.
I'll
so
make sure I'll get.
If you
get
have
to
it,
you.
yes, okay. So I know that's the day before, and that's a very, very large event. Upcoming events, tonight is our evening commissioners meeting in Williamsport at 6 PM. Looking forward to that. Discovery Station, opening of 2 new exhibits this Saturday, March the 30th, from 10 to 4, right across the street. Reception for the Sharpsburg Museum is this next Friday, April the 5th, at 5 PM. And then also grand reopening of the Sharpsburg Museum, Saturday, April the 6th at 10 a.m. Reminder that there is no meeting next week in observance basically of Easter and Easter Monday. And as Commissioner Harvey had said, for the believers in the room, this is Holy Week, and Friday is a day that very important. So, good way to put it. So, with that, have I missed anything? Any other comments this morning from my fellow commissioners? Okay, we'll move right into staff comments, and first up is the wonderful Leslie Hart, Grown Local Magazine.
Good morning.
Good
Happy
morning.
Tuesday. Leslie Hart, Washington County Business and Economic Development. This has been out probably about 2.5 weeks, but I wanted to officially just share with you the Grown Local magazine. There are copies over at the entrance, and I placed these on your desk this morning. This is what I call a legacy edition. It looks at farmers that have had a huge presence in our community and have since passed, and their families are continuing the agricultural tradition. Shank, Price, Poffenberger, Creek, Long, Schnebley, all long-standing family names are featured in this magazine. So I hope you take the time and enjoy it. This is out in our community, in the surrounding area, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and I'm really excited about this publication. This is the 3rd series of the Grown Local, and we anticipate another one coming out in February of 2025. And I do want to share, I do have new updates about Ag Stats. I'll come in sometime in the month of April and share all those officially with you. But we went from $153 million to $167 million in market value sold in the agricultural industry. Again, your largest industry
That's
in Washington
livestock,
County.
produce,
It's everything,
dairy.
everything. And I'll share that in a lot more detail later in the month of April. Okay. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Next up is Chip Rose, approved county attorney position. Chip?
Good morning, Commissioners. I don't have very many items for you since we didn't meet last week, but I do have one very important item to start with. The staff is seeking approval to promote Zach Kiefer from Deputy County Attorney to County Attorney. That would be effective March the 18th, and the offer is for grade 20 at a rate of $78.64 an hour.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion is second on the floor. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations. So then the second kind of connected item is staff is seeking approval to advertise and promote, the position of Deputy County Attorney, which is a grade 18.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank
That's
you.
all that I have for you this
5-0.
morning.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Rosie Pascal.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today to seek approval for a curative ordinance. This regards an ordinance and decision with conclusions of law and findings of fact that has already been approved, filed, and signed. There was a small but important typo in the original ordinance. Everything else is correct. There wasn't the the typo referring to zoning ordinance section 18.5 instead of the appropriate section 5E. So I have a ordinance to cure that typo that we are seeking approval for you today to have signed and filed.
Just to correct the file number, the number.
Yeah, it just literally changes 3 digits to like 18.5 to 5E, and then there's a paragraph at the very top added that explains that this is a curative ordinance, and it refers to the original ordinance and incorporates the original decision where everything else is accurate.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Rosie, could I just ask, and I'm sorry, the original ordinance, what was the name of that ordinance? What did it involve?
The original ordinance number is 2024-04. It was in relation to RZ 23006. It was a rezoning amendment application that went through the Planning Commission public hearing and everything. Decision was already signed and filed and accurately cites to the correct section. It was just this one.
And could you refresh my memory, just, I'm not familiar with the numbering scheme, but was that a unanimous decision among the commissioners?
Of those present
Well-
during the public hearing, I cannot recall, but I do not know if you were present at the public hearing.
Do you have the name of the sometimes when those are presented to us, it mentions the property owner's name or?
Yes, Ralph and Leah Martin.
Okay. I understand. I know now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ready to call for the vote. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you.
Next item is Dawn.
Good morning, Commissioners. On behalf of the Adult Public Guardianship Review Board, I am requesting a motion to approve the appointments of Jeremy Socks and Teresa Peak to serve a first full 3-year term from April 1st of 2024 through March 31st of 2027. This is not a paid board.
Motion to approve both names.
Second.
Motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
And on behalf of the Washington County Plumbing and Mechanical Board, I am requesting a motion to approve the appointment of Jim Aaron to serve a first full 3-year term from April 1st of 2024 through March 31st of 2027 as a Master HVAC representative. This is a paid board.
Motion to approve.
Motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
And on behalf of the Washington County Plumbing and Mechanical Board, I am requesting a motion to approve the appointment of Ricky Malott to serve a first full 3-year term from March 1st of 2024 through February 28th of 2027 as a master plumber representative. This is a paid board.
Motion to approve.
Motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
And the last one, on behalf of the Washington County Plumbing and Mechanical Board, I'm requesting a motion to approve the appointment of Daniel Hemschrott to serve a first full 3-year term from March 1st of 2024 through February 28th of 2027 as a member-at-large representative, and this is a pay board.
Motion to approve.
Second. We need a second.
Second.
Motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next up is Zach Kiefer.
Good morning, Commissioners. The local government article of the Maryland Code requires each county to file a designation of a person who is a citizen and resident of the state as resident agent with the State Department of Assessments and Taxations, upon whom process notice may be served under certain circumstances. Kirk Downey was is the current resident agent for the county, and with his appointment to the circuit court and my recent appointment as county attorney, I'd respectfully ask that I be designated as the county attorney, or excuse me, as the resident agent for the county and filling Kirk's position in that role.
Need a motion for
I
that? Motion for that to be approved?
Yeah, did you motion second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Gordon.
First, I'd like to start by congratulating Zach Kiefer on his recent appointment to county attorney. It's a promotion well-deserved. I not only attended but participated in the St. Patrick's Day Run Fest, and I wanted to say thank you to our Parks and Rec Department, both from the city and the county, for making sure that this event went off without a hitch. The county did provide mutual aid to Hardee County, West Virginia, to assist with several large wildland fires, and I'd like to thank our volunteer fire crews and our Division of Emergency Services staff for their efforts to assist Hardee County. I'd also like to thank Montgomery County, Maryland, our inspections department and our DES staff, along with our volunteers, for their assistance yesterday with the special response efforts in Hancock. I did attend the Maryland Municipal League meeting last night with all of our county municipalities. I presented information on the work being done by the county on the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and that's coming in 2026. The next meeting is April the 9th, and we will hold an evening meeting with the town of Smithsburg on April the 23rd. And that's everything that I have.
Okay, thank you. Have we missed anyone or anything? Hearing no comment, we'll move right into citizens' participation. I think this morning I need to read the statement for the rules and for the citizen participation part of our meeting. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment about an issue or issues of county practices and interests. This is not an interactive dialogue or question and answer session. It is solely time to hear citizens' comments. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. And with that, I'll open it up for citizens' participation. First row. I'm sorry. Paulie, you want to go first? Go. Sure.
Thank you. As Mr. Klein reported earlier, this was our 12th annual Maryland International Film Festival that we held here in Hagerstown. Thank you, Mr. Klein, for attending and representing the board. And I'm here to thank the county commissioners for their support of this endeavor every year. We had in excess of over 100 films being shown from more than 12 countries from around, and we're the only international film festival in Maryland that receive films from around the world. We have been listed, and currently are listed, I think, with the movie magazine. It escapes me the exact name of it, but it's Movie Magazine for Hollywood, as the top 50 festivals, international film festivals, or film festivals to see in the country. So that's something we'd be proud of. And we were glad that we could continue to bring the international people and other filmmakers from around the country. Our furthest participation this year was from France. She showed up. And we've had a number of course, other filmmakers from around surrounding states that submitted films as well. It's a very successful endeavor for the county and the city of Hagerstown, and we're very proud that we could help move the economic engine here during those 4 days. With our red carpet on Thursday evening that Mr. Klein attended, we did a special honor that you should know. After we presented the initial honorees this year, that represented the industry so well was we did a special award for Tom Reifert for his contribution to not only the International Film Festival and as being a founder of the International Film Festival, but also his work in the community and his non-service efforts that he has done for so many organizations over the many years that he's been doing it. We did a wonderful program Thursday afternoon for Barbara Ingram. It was really a very fine program, well attended, and probably had about 200 people there, based on what I estimated up in the fourth room when we did the student films. It was very well attended. I think with what the students are learning from the film festival, by their participation, and by the individuals that we honor each year and their contribution to the film festival, television festival, and entertainment industry is something that I think they will carry with them because we really do honor people that have connections with Maryland. I just want to thank again the commissioners and the county for supporting that endeavor. It's very well done, and we continue to look for the next 12 years ahead of us, and bringing more and better films in, and hopefully our goal as the board is to grow that with the participation. We do 5 venues downtown, and it's a wonderful to have those 5 venues because they're all within walking distance. And it's easy for the filmmakers that are traveling into town to find their way around and to visit as many films as they are wish to do, and their own films being presented as well. Thank you very much for all that you do and that effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Dave?
Dave Williams, 11 West Water Street, Smithsburg. Thank you, Commissioner Barr, for your comments you made at your last meeting in support of our school system. Thank you for acknowledging the real needs that the Board of Education's FY25 budget attempts to address. Thank you for recognizing that the BOE budget request is not merely a wish list for the superintendent, rubber stamped by a majority of the school board. Thank you for stating that a 1% increase of the school budget in the face of inflation and genuine needs is counterintuitive. And thank you for supporting a local income tax rate to help raise the funds needed for the many unmet needs of the county. Commissioner Harvey also spoke at your last meeting and made several inflammatory, inaccurate, and/or misleading statements about the BOE budget request, the superintendent, and the members of the elected Board of Education. Mr. Harvey, you may have led some listeners to believe that the reason for consolidating 2 elementary schools was to save $500,000 a year. In fact, both schools are old, one rated at the bottom of the elementary facilities assessment scale, the other near the bottom. Both have open classrooms, which are bad for instruction and student safety, and one school is on a septic system and has no drinkable water. Consolidation is the cost-effective way to address these problems. Any operational savings are a bonus and not the rationale for closing the schools. You expressed concern about how long it would take to pay off the county's share of the new construction. Well, if the commissioners want to keep both schools open, you're welcome to run sewer and water lines and pay 100% of the building renovation costs, since the state won't chip in for renovations as they will for new construction. You questioned whether the elected board members, or more specifically the majority, had done their due diligence when, among other things, it came to approving the budget, approving new personnel, and hiring a contractor to work on a strategic plan. If you watch the BOE meetings where these actions were discussed, I think it's clear that each action was appropriately questioned, that board members had done their homework, and the rationale for each action was clearly presented. Just because you disagree with a majority vote, it doesn't mean the prevailing side was a rubber stamp. It means there was a split vote, period. You questioned why the BOE would submit a budget request that was above the, quote, top line that was feasible, unquote. Evidently, the feasible top line right now is just 1.01% more than last year. an increase that doesn't even come close to touching inflation. In his comments, Mr. Wagner acknowledged that, quote, "It's crazy what inflation has done to every family," unquote. And isn't it just as crazy what inflation has done to our schools? If the BOE did not submit a budget that reflects the impact of inflation and the legitimate needs of the school system, its employees, and the students it serves, it would be an abdication of their responsibility as elected officials. I do thank you for your comments this morning calling for discussions about revenue enhancements and possible budget adjustments. And again, thank you, Commissioner Barr.
Okay, Mr. Lowe.
Hi, everybody, and thank you.
Good morning.
My name is Jeffrey Lowe. It's my son Jordan Lowe, Ben Donovan, Mike Fuentes. We own First Breach. We are one of only very few ammunition manufacturers in the United States of America, right here locally in Hagerstown. Approximately 2 years ago, we decided to settle our business in Hagerstown, Maryland. This came not without choices. We chose this area because of its conservative nature and Second Amendment philosophy. We have ingratiated ourselves in the Hagerstown community. We brought our banking here. We have a relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. We have reached out to schools in the area to create an internship program for students that are looking for a pathway to employment. To this point, we have built out 75,000 square feet of manufacturing facility and have hired approximately 30 people. Both numbers will continue to increase exponentially for the next 10 years. Our facility is fully licensed and approved with the ATF as well as local zoning. Greg Charette, the new Director Code official, also called the ATF to verify this. We have received a special exemption, thanks to Zach, by the way, along with a variance from local zoning to manufacture explosive primers. This being housed in the same area with a contiguous 116,000 square feet of additional space. We recently hosted 30 ATF agents from Maryland, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, along with 6 prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. They loved our facility and attention to detail in the way we manufactured, as well as batching and lotting all of our products. They urged us to start loading and making completed rounds as we were going to in the future, but this was something that they wanted us to do almost immediately, as it would be significantly easier to track completed rounds rather than just components. Last Thursday, the 21st, we had a visit from Greg Cartrette, 2 members of the bomb squad, as well as a fire marshal. They said they received an internal complaint from a disgruntled employee about possessing too much smokeless powder. Please understand that smokeless powder is not explosive and simply burns but does not explode. As you all know, loading ammunition is something that many people around the county, state, and country do in their homes. Knowing full well we have permit to manufacture explosives, as well as all of our zoning for all of our manufacturers, these gentlemen asked us to remove powder and stop loading at once. They claimed we now need a permit to load our components. By shutting down our loading, we feel this was not only an unjust punishment for First Breach, but was also punishing the county, as we will now have to start firing employees. We tried to talk rationally and come up with a real plan. However, Greg Cartrette wanted no part of the discussion. Please note that Ed Ernst, who was part of the bomb squad there, he's also a former fire chief and member of the bomb squad, was actually trying to explain to the others that this was simply smokeless powder, and he suggests putting a small sea container in our premises to store the powder there. The following day, we received a letter from Jill Baker after several phone calls from her with a very nasty and disrespectful tone, which we were not really understand why we deserved behavior like that. We're just a viable entity contributing to Hagerstown and Washington County community. This letter stated that we must remove all of our powder along with the completed rounds that we have made. After receiving her letter, we called Jill Baker and asked her why she continued to mention explosives in her letter when we do not possess explosives. This seems to be a problem of being uninformed about what we do here and our licensing. We then asked Jill Baker why we had to remove our completed rounds, and she mentioned we do not have a permit. There's actually no permit to possess ammunition. You could look at Hafer's, Sportsman's Warehouse, other stores, not to mention every county resident that possesses ammunition in their residential homes. This was just another spiteful, unjust punishment, we felt. Jill then gave us a different excuse, saying that we were not permitted to sell out of the facility, which is a complete farce, as we have our sales and use tax license. Also, did she think we were just manufacturing products and never selling them? That being said, we do not have anybody come to our facility directly, and this is not a retail store or outlet by any means. We're here this morning to try to come to a resolution and inform the board instead of moving our completed rounds out of this area and state and eventually our entire manufacturing facility. Thank you. You have anything to say? Is our time up?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other citizens' participation this morning?
Good morning. I am Carol Mowen, President of the Washington County Teachers Association, and our office is located on Oak Ridge Drive in Hagerstown. I hoped that today's draft budget would indicate a change in allocation for the Washington County Public Schools, but the funding has not yet been adjusted. Some of you have shared that you do not believe the school district needs additional funding, much beyond the maintenance of effort expectations of the past. I urge you to reconsider. MOE doesn't provide for increases caused by inflation and other factors that are affecting our students, educators, and schools. Please consider the following carefully as you deliberate further. Maintenance of effort and small percentage increases are not enough to meet the rising costs of educating students. I have urged the Board of Education to ask you for what our students need, and it's actually more than what Dr. Sovine has requested. His proposed budget is not a wish list. And speaking of students, the same number of employees who staffed schools 10 years ago are no longer sufficient. Our kids are not the same, and many of our kids are not okay. This year, we have had more employees than ever before being hurt across the K-12 spectrum. Staff have been hit, bruised, bitten, knocked down, and punched. Most times, it's an accident insofar as the punch or shove was meant for another student. But however you look at it, these students are in crisis. We need specialized staff to address their needs. WCTA supports the promise of the blueprint, and with the Maryland State Education Association, we continue to advocate for adequate state funding and responsible implementation. However, to say that the state is requiring counties to increase funding to pay for unfunded mandates is not 100% accurate. It's an oversimplification of a complex funding formula that seeks to correct historic inequities and provide for counties to fund their fair share. This year has the smallest percentage increase in state funding provided under the blueprint. The commissioners could opt to provide additional funding now to bridge this gap to future increases from the state. To say cutting teaching positions would provide enough savings for the Board of Education to provide raises or better provide for the needs of our students is disingenuous. It is also misleading to say that the savings of combining 2 elementary schools is eroded by those same positions. It is an oversimplification that makes for a clever soundbite, but it isn't accurate. Some of you say that the Board of Education can decide what to do with its allocation, and that the board could have funded last year's negotiated raises if they had wanted to do so. That is not a fair expectation. The board would have had to cut programs and staffing, and that would not serve the interest of students. The educator shortage and the retention of current staff are serious issues, and the number of WCPS employees who live in the county shouldn't be relevant to the discussion. But for those for whom it matters, here are the facts. 68% of Washington County Public Schools staff live in Washington County. That's 85% of our educational support personnel, 58% of our teachers, and 54% of our administrators. We deserve the same raises that you are providing to county employees to meet the rising cost of living. In addition, if the county did not pull from adjacent states and counties, we would not have the staffing necessary to support county government or the county schools. For example, of the county's 836 full-time employees, 62% live in Washington County. But it doesn't really matter where the county or school district employees live, because those of us who work in Washington County support Washington County. We provide services to the citizens who elected you to look after their best interests, including educating all students, no matter who they are or what their needs. Please provide at least the funding requested by Dr. Sovine. How you decide to do that is your decision. You have access to resources if you choose to look carefully at past practices, future projections, and choices that have been made by past commissioners. Thank you for providing the support you have given to Washington County Public Schools. I implore you to find it in your hearts to step up your commitment and meet this moment with a new era of support for Washington County students and schools. And thank you for allowing me a little bit of extra time.
Thank you. Other citizens' participation this morning? Hearing none, we'll move right along into our public hearing, which was scheduled for 9:30. With that, I'll open the public hearing with an opening statement. Next on the agenda is a public hearing concerning proposed revisions to the Washington County, Maryland Ethics Ordinance. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the matter. The procedure is as follows. We will first have staff introduce the matter, after which the hearing will be open for public comment and testimony. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to testify. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the hearing will close. The commissioners may then discuss the issue and reach a consensus to approve or deny the proposed updates and revisions. Zachary Kiefer, would you please introduce the matter? And commissioners, you may ask questions of staff and the public. However, we will deliberate after the hearing closes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Zachary Kiefer, County Attorney. Today before you are the draft revisions of the County Ethics Ordinance. The Board of County Commissioners adopted the Ethics Ordinance in May of 1982 with a subsequent revision in September of 2011. Periodically, the Maryland State Ethics Commission issues updates and revisions to the Model Ethics Ordinance, which is then incumbent upon the county to update and adopt. And before you in red line are the most recent revisions to the ethics ordinance. I will note there is a slight change in the recommended action. I will need a motion to approve the updates, and also just to note this public hearing was duly advertised in the Herald Mail. So with that, I'll turn this over to return back to President Barr.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we will now open the hearing for public comment. Anyone wishing to testify this morning in regards to the Ethics Commission? Hearing no public comment. Does the commissioners have any questions or comments?
Just a question, if I may, Zach.
Certainly.
I have red and blue revisions on mine. Is there a difference between the colors? You said red was revisions to ethics, but...
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said red lines colloquially as, those are the track changes, I guess I should have said. No, those were just a factor of both myself and our paralegal, Kim Jacobson, working on the changes. For all intents and purposes, they are the red lines. It's just for formatting and technical errors, they were broken.
You had a third person in there, it would be green.
Exactly.
And are all of these changes, these are required changes by the state of Maryland, none are staff input, so we have to vote on these, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there anything in there, Zach, that you see earth shaking that we should know about? I think Commissioner Kiefer just summed up. We almost have to follow it anyway, but I'd like to know.
The substantively on page 6, subsection G, there's a bit of an expansion of the use of prestige of office, but I think that's sort of more clarifying than really, like you said, Randy, earth-shattering.
They did expand, going through this here.
A lot more on lobbyists and
Yeah.
lobbyist restrictions and post-employment restrictions when you've been on the commission, that type of thing. Much
Exactly,
more of
Commissioner
that.
Harvey, yeah,
Yeah.
they did expand the lobbying provisions and the reporting requirements that the lobbyists are required to make. From the commissioner's standpoint, I don't know that's necessarily earth-shattering, but that was certainly noteworthy.
Should I close? For any further discussion, I'd like to close the public hearing and have discussion.
Yeah.
So before we get into any further deep conversation, I'd like to call the public hearing is now concluded and open it back up to the commissioners for.
So that means I got to ask that question again, or?
No, I'll let it go.
No, I don't have anything.
Do you wish us to take action today, since basically we're complying with state ethics rules?
Yeah, like I say, is there any reason why to postpone the vote?
I wouldn't say, I'd, again, respectfully ask for the motion and.
I'll make the motion to approve it as presented with the correction.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion, comment? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Same sign. 5-0. Very good.
Commissioners.
Thank you. Next item is another public hearing. It is for modification of 911 fee. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the matter. The procedure is as follows. We will first have the staff introduce the matter, basically just as the previous public hearing. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the hearing will close. Commissioners may then discuss the issue and move to adopt the proposed schedule for FY 2025 as presented, or modify at any point following the closure of the public hearing. Zach Kiefer and Kelsey Mace, would you please introduce the matter? Commissioners, you may ask questions of staff and the public. However, we will deliberate after the hearing closes. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelsey Mace, Chief Financial Officer.
Zach Kiefer, County Attorney.
And this morning, we are conducting a public hearing to permit any member of the public to appear and testify concerning the proposed modification of the 911 fee. Per Maryland Code Public Safety Article subsection 1-311C1, a county may impose a 911 fee of up to 75 cents to be added to all current bills rendered for Switch Local Exchange Access Service, or CMRS, or other 911 accessible service in the county. If revenues attributed to the county's 911 fee do not provide the revenues necessary to cover the county's operations for the 911 system, subsection 1-311C2 allows the county to impose a 911 fee higher than the 75 cents to cover the county's projected operations costs. The proposed modification is to increase the fee from 75 cents per month per bill to $1.25 per month per bill, or an increase of 50 cents. This fee was last increased in October 2003.
21 years.
So that's all I have unless there are questions.
Okay. Zach, do you have any comments? Or?
Nothing further.
Okay. So at this point, I'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here this morning that would like to come forward and comment one way or the other? Okay. Hearing none, I'll turn it back to the commissioners, my fellow commissioners. Any thoughts, comments, questions?
So is the fee supposed to cover the cost, the operating costs for the 911 system in theory when this was originally?
Yes, that's the intent.
And so we're $4.3 million in the red even with this increase?
Yes, so the increase will close the gap some, but it does not completely close the gap.
Yeah, by about $4 million. And we haven't had any increases for 20 years. 21 years.
How we been operating for 20 years with a $5.7 million loss? What's been covering that?
So that's just the loss per the fee directly. We've been covering the rest of the cost through other general revenue.
Right, well, that's the point, right, Randy? So what would the fee be if we had been keeping up with the actual costs over the 20 years.
I don't have that calculated.
We can get that information for you.
So what's happened in the past? How many, has this been brought to us for that long, or was it brought to us 5 years ago, or 3 years ago? Do you have a history of a vote on this, or?
In my 10 years of employment, I don't believe it has been brought forward.
And this will be seen on where does this get collected at?
At the carrier level.
Yeah, it's given to the state and then the state remits back to us. Because there's also a state fee that's wrapped in with that fee.
To our telephone bills.
And should this be approved and go in effect July 1?
Correct, it would. And I would need a vote and decision today because there is an April 15 deadline to file the increase with the State Numbers Board.
Kelsey, I'm kind of curious, do you know, are there restrictions or limitations as to how much can be imposed for this fee? And I'm kind of thinking, we say it hasn't been increased in 21 years. Boy, imagine if it was taxed like income tax or property tax and it was a percentage. I don't think 21 years ago people had $200-300 cell phone bills.
The upward limitation is that which is sufficient to cover the operation costs of the 911 center. So I think Kelsey has here proposed costs are the 6.7 million. So that would sort of be your, again, leaving the numbers to Kelsey, but that would be your upper limit to that.
So out of curiosity, what would that amount be other than if $1.25 isn't enough, you still have a shortfall, what would that dollar amount need to be
It would be an additional $1.30 at least,
on top of?
on top of the $1.25 we're proposing.
Okay. And do you know what the state charges?
The state charges 50 cents.
And the federal government charges too, so.
And there are other counties who charge more than that $2.50 would be. I believe Kelsey has that complete list. I can look it up if you don't have it handy.
I have it here. So the highest county is Frederick County that charges $2.25 on top of the 50-cent state charge.
Do we know a county that has a lower floor?
What's the lowest county?
Yeah, the lowest rate.
We're one of the lowest.
So the lowest rate across is the 75 cents that we are currently at, and there's 10 counties at that low level. 11 counties at that level.
And our increases have increased, Kelsey, I think, if I'm correct, because we've waived some expenses from outside municipalities, correct? We've absorbed that now.
We've absorbed about $415,000 roughly from the city of Hagerstown when we converted the 911 system from having a 911 system at the city of Hagerstown to just a joint system here at the county. So we absorbed all of their cost.
Well, I'm fine with this, but I think we need to revisit it each year.
Okay.
Because, there's some catching up that needs to be done, and if you believe that, this is a user fee, if you will, because it provides a service to everybody. And
Everybody has a cell phone, right?
We agree, which is why we're bringing it forward this year. We didn't want to bring in a 200% increase in the first year, so it's something that will phase in over the next 5 years at least.
I'm just amazed we didn't address it for 20 years. I don't get that. Sorry. Then all of a sudden you got to kick the can down the road and pick up the pieces 20 years later.
Other
Okay.
thoughts, comments?
do we make a motion to support this?
You concluded the public hearing.
Yeah, I need to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, at this point, we'll call the public hearing, is now concluded, and it's back into Commissioner's hands. And if you want to further deliberation or call for a motion for a vote.
I motion to vote at this point in time. I motion to approve the increase.
Move it forward to the budget hearing. Is that what we're doing?
I would need a vote today so that we meet the deadline to report the change to the State Numbers Board to give them enough time to implement with all of the carriers.
Okay. I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
This will be effective July the 1st, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, 5-0. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Zach.
Kelsey, when this is brought back next year, could you provide, like, the listing you were looking at with where other counties sit on that, and maybe kind of like what we do with the water and sewer increases when we look at, since that's kind of a, you know, kind of a similar structure in a way, like what additional increment would that reduce our general fund burden back into 911? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I have the list of the other counties that I can send that out to you today, but yeah, I'll keep in mind to make that schedule next year.
Okay, thanks.
That would free up $5 million for other expenses if I follow your thinking there, Wayne.
It could.
Yeah.
I'd say, do you want me to, or you want to go out and say, you know, maybe Jeff and I meet with them?
If we'd increased it, we might have to shift some money. Should we increase it up to 250?
Well, long awaited. I think we've got some anxious young students, smiling faces here with us this morning. This is one of the bright stars in our community and one of the fun things we as commissioners get to do. All the other things that drive us crazy, this makes us very happy and joyous. And Richard, I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, well, throughout the school year, the Board of County Commissioners present Youth Meritorious Awards to students attending both public and private schools, or those being homeschooled in Washington County. The following individuals have been selected based on their scholastic achievement, leadership qualities, community service performed, and other positive contributions to their school and community. These exceptional youths have consistently worked and distinguished themselves as model students and members of our county. It is my pleasure to present the following youths for recognition today. The first one is Ashton Redmond, attends Smithsburg High School. Ashton is an exemplary student for lower classmen to look up to. He takes advanced placement and dual credit courses and is captain of the Smithsburg High School football team. Serving as a leader among student athletes, Ashton regularly participates in community service, takes initiative, and advocates for a better future. Unfortunately, Ashton was unable to make it today, but we will make sure that he gets his certificate, and if at some time in the future we want to get a photo op, we can certainly arrange that.
Okay.
Next up,
Good morning, Isabel.
is Isabel Jackson. Isabel attends Boyd J. Michael III Technical High School. Isabel is an exemplary student, athlete, and citizen. Among her numerous achievements, Isabel has a 4.19 GPA, plays club volleyball, serves in the Student Government Association, and volunteers with the Department of Veteran Affairs as a writer. She has excelled in the Homeland Security Program curriculum and is expected to earn her emergency telecommunicator certification and her FAA commercial drone pilot certificate. Isabel serves as an example to her classmates of the dedication and hard work and tenacity which is required for success. I present Isabel Jackson.
Morning. You want to make the presentation?
Certificate of recognition is presented to Isabel Jackson. We, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, do hereby recognize you for the outstanding achievement of being selected as a recipient of the March 24 Youth Meritorious Award, Boyd J. Michael III Technical High School. Your academic accomplishments, humanitarian efforts, and extracurricular activities are to be commended by both parents and students in Washington County. You have proven to be a superior role model. We congratulate you on your achievements and wish you the best in all your future endeavors. Awarded this 26th day of March 2024, signed by the county commissioners. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And I will say, this just doesn't even begin to touch on some of the things you've been active in our community. You're very busy.
Yeah.
Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Also, I want to take this opportunity, I think is there family here with some of the students? We'll do family and group photos after all the awards are made, if that's okay.
Next, we have Cameron. Cameron is an outstanding, well-rounded student who is very active both inside and outside the classroom. She is a member of both the National Honor Society and the Spanish Honor Society, a member of the Ruhr Team and Link. She is manager and photographer for the boys basketball team. In addition, Cameron has volunteered extensively with Connections students, being both mentor and friend to them. I present to you Cameron Eichelberger. Cameron does go to Smithsburg High School.
Hey.
I wonder how y'all got so smart, that's what I want to know. Maybe you ought to read this thing, Cameron. All right, Cameron, we're gonna get going here.
Okay.
Smithsburg, right? Yeah. We, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, do hereby recognize you for your outstanding achievement of being selected as recipient of March 2024 Youth Meritus Award. Smithsburg High School, your academic accomplishments, humanitarian, right? Okay, humanitarian efforts and extracurricular activities are to be commended by both parents and students in Washington County. You have proven to be a superior role model. We congratulate you on your achievement and wish you the best in all your future endeavors. Award this 26th day of March 2024 by the Washington County Board of County Commissioners. Thank you.
Congratulations.
There's also a gift certificate back there. Okay, I think we might have missed the last one. We'll get it, so.
Mr. Wagner, can we trade Cameron in for you? Trade you in for
Well, she could read this better, but anyway. She wants to center.
There you go. Great. 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Hey, thank you, Cameron. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now I have Cheyenne Jordan. Cheyenne Jordan also goes to Smithsburg High School. Cheyenne has been very active in Future Farmers of America as a member and held multiple offices over the years. She does community service with several organizations, including Youth United and the Humane Society of Washington County. She has earned the Maryland Seal of Biliteracy in English and Spanish. Cheyenne has a natural leadership abilities and open mind, a mindset of continuous improvement, and is often the voice of reason in the room. She sets an excellent example for others to follow. I present Cheyenne Jordan.
Hey. Cheyenne, congratulations. Good job, hard work, and I'll go ahead and read this. And by the way, do you have family here?
Yes.
Do you want to introduce them now? Would you like to do
My
that?
mother, Christina Lydie, is over there.
This certificate of recognition is presented to Cheyenne Jordan. We, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, do hereby recognize you for the outstanding achievement of being selected as a recipient of the March 2024 Youth Meritorious Award. Smithsburg High School, your academic accomplishments, humanitarian efforts, and extracurricular activities are to be commended by both parents and students in Washington County. You have proven to be a superior role model. We congratulate you on your achievement and wish you the best in all of your future endeavors. Signed by all 5 of the county commissioners, and on the back, there's a gift certificate to Staples. So, okay, we want to do pictures with parents. Yeah, we want to do, let's do a group first, and you can do the family.
Mr. Moore? We should do three separate.
Okay, look here. Okay. Commissioners, go ahead. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Great. We'll do one with, and parents.
You want
now?
family? It's all
Yes.
family, individuals.
Individuals with families.
Yes, families, perfect, good.
There you go.
Oh, sorry. All right. Okay, great, thank you. Thank you. I think so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Very well done.
It's not easy.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Comes the A-team.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Well, where's my? What did I do? Okay, good morning. Next on our item is FY25 highway budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
Good morning, Zane Rao, Deputy Director of Highways.
Before we get started, I know this has been mentioned already this morning, but wanted to take a few moments to recognize the tragedy that occurred in Baltimore with the Key Bridge collapse. I know many times we go about our day driving from place to place and never really give a thought about all the work that goes into operating and maintaining our roads and bridges. We take it for granted that we'll have a safe trip, and that takes people like our highway staff to do it. And as I understand it, there were construction workers performing some deck repairs on the bridge at the time of the collapse, and so our hearts and prayers go out to those families and the workers who were on that bridge. And so I think it's a good reminder as well to be appreciative of our highway employees and to be patient when traveling through a work zone so that they can get home to their families. But we are here to present the FY25 budget, and so I'll first start by giving just a brief overview of the revenue side. As many of you are well aware, since 2009, the Highway Fund has shifted from largely supported by highway user revenues to general fund support, and we do make and plead that case to MDOT and the state delegation to try to restore and distribute those funds in a more equitable manner. It appears, at least for FY25, that the small promised HUR increase that was included in the most recent bill in Annapolis will be retained, but we do have great uncertainty about what that will look like in the future. On the expense side, the expenses are divided into 6 different cost categories. There's general operations, road maintenance, snow removal, storm damage, traffic control, and fleet management. I'll say in general, the Highway Department is not proposing any major increases to its controllable budget items, but the majority of the increase is related to the wage and benefit increases that are being driven by the overall proposed wage scale and that is geared more towards the lower grade positions, which would help increase pay to many of our highway maintenance workers. I'll turn it over to Zane to just cover a brief overview of the different cost categories and any highlights that you want to mention.
First, I want to thank staff from Highways, IT, and Budget and Finance for their help with budget prep. We tried to remain flat, if you will, on what we could control. I think we tried to do a pretty good job with that in the past, so I want to continue doing that in the future. I believe it's fairly straightforward, so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy and.
Yeah, I mean, just curious question. So what you proposed that you needed for your budget, how much was, nothing's been voted on, I get it, but how much was, that might be a question for Kelsey. How much was, say you proposed X amount of dollars, how much was actually approved for now to be put into your budget?
I want to say probably 95% of what we proposed is in there.
There were some things, I think, as far as proposed changes, there was a proposed update to some of the certification incentives for the fleet management services that I don't know that all of those were in there. I did see that in the proposed package, there was some increase to that, which hadn't been touched in a long time.
What Andrew's alluding to, I think in 2000, the county started a stipend program for the mechanic, and it was set at 20 cents per stipend, and I believe it was 15 total that each mechanic could acquire through ASE certification. I had proposed raising it to 50 cents, which would have been a 30-cent increase, and I think the salary committee recommended 15 cents in lieu of the 30. So it's been 24 years and it's not been increased. And that was an attempt to try to recruit and retain mechanics.
I think my point here is, is that of all the departments that have submitted their budget so far, I think we've, being staff, cut $14–15 million. You correct me if I'm wrong, out of those proposals. So I guess my point is that our departments don't get everything it's asked for. That's what I'm trying to establish here.
Right, so total cuts for total expenditures was $115,590. The total request was $14 million. The total amount approved was $13.9. So we did make cuts to this department as well.
And I'm also trying to establish what are we cutting that's.
But this is the regular maintenance, right?
Correct.
This is not building roads, or this isn't the asphalt paving.
Yeah, I get it.
This isn't any of that.
I think we've cut a total of 14 or 15 million out of proposed requests.
Yeah.
Am I correct on assuming that?
For the general fund, correct, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. I just want to establish it. Sometimes it just doesn't happen the way we all want it to.
Correct.
But anyway, go ahead. I was just trying to see what we're lacking by, what are we giving up with, and not only, you guys seem like you're pretty good shape, so.
Yeah, and I think where we're at now, we're in good shape. Material, I increased that by 5.5%, which I think was in the budget guidelines. I increased our contract for contractors by $25,000, tree removal, guardrail work. So they weren't big increases, but I feel comfortable with what's proposed and where we're at.
Most of the cuts we made to this department were around their personnel requests.
And we try to be realistic. I mean, when you look at just vacancies that we've had over the past couple of years, our first priority is just to try to get back to full staff. And so I think we recognize that the number of roads and facilities that Highways maintains has grown. And they also, we are, I think, a support arm for a lot of county departments, not just Highways, to work on special projects when there's a cost benefit. So, moving forward, certainly if we could get to full staffing, there's always more need to take on more and a cost benefit there, but we haven't requested any additional personnel, I would say in at least 10 or 15 years.
I agree.
Can either of you speak to highway user revenues? And it looks like maybe a $500,000 increase. We're still a third of what we were at our high water mark, around $9 million a couple years ago. The trajectory of that?
Very uncertain, I think, is the best response. I believe a year ago, there was a new bill that did change the reallocation because there was a sunset that was going to occur that would very drastically reduce what we would have received. So there were some marginal increases to get it back up. But it was nowhere on track to get back to a $9 or $10 million allocation. It used to be, somewhere on the port of like 14 or 15% went to the counties to then be divided up based on lane miles, and we're down in the single-digit percentages. And then with the operational budget that the state had proposed, there was these additional funds, the $500,000 in the draft budget was proposed to be removed, and then they were placed back with a one-time cash infusion. But we have uncertainty in the future what that may mean. And I know the state's spending a fair amount of time on trying to look at transportation funding in general. So there's just a lot of uncertainty.
And I'll just add a little bit of history for that as well. The cumulative effect of reductions in highway user revenues from the state is around $80 million that we've lost in revenue that the general fund has had to make up. The governor has recognized that with the advent or the onslaught of electric vehicles, that gas tax is not there to replenish the transportation fund. So they have implemented a task force to try to come up with alternate revenue streams to replenish the transportation fund. They're working on that now.
Yeah, the old saying, what the government giveth, the government can taketh away. And that's just, different conversation. My concern with the disparity grant, and come to rely on that, and then it's pulled out to resolve a budget. Kind of curious, you mentioned the news this morning of the bridge, and we talked about it earlier, the Key Bridge. How does the cost to replace something like that, I'm sure that's
Billions.
now moved up to a top priority for the state of Maryland in terms of road projects, the amount of traffic it received. Just, maybe it's not fair to ask that right now if you don't know the answer to that, but, and I wonder where that puts state priorities going forward with our highway budget.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question I know they're already contending with. I mean, the first phase is just, obviously, they're in rescue and recovery mode. I did listen to the, Secretary Wiedefeld's press conference, and so, yes, they've already engaged with engineering companies and things to start that process, which in all honesty is going to be years to probably design and build a bridge of that magnitude and in the billions of dollars, most likely not even factoring in, impacts to the Port of Baltimore and everything else. So I'm sure there'll be much more said about that in the coming days and weeks.
And I think from a financial perspective that the offending party, their insurance company would be responsible for it. And if not, the state's insurance would be responsible for a large portion, if not all of the replacement cost.
I believe the news reported $750 million original, and I think it was 24 or 5 years ago.
50?
Is it 50? So
77.
probably, I would say double, triple without a question.
So people are already talking about the cost to replace.
77.
Yeah, I'm sure it's on the radar.
Well, Wilson Bridge was billions.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question back to what we're talking about, if I could go back. How do you, more of a question or a comment, how are you budgeting our snow removal with the light type of weather that we have? Do we have the exact same cost? But I know when you say that, we still have to have preparation and our people in place to be prepared. But how do you factor that in with the difference in the weather and the way we've been having? Because we're due one big storm.
Well, years ago, it was always under budgeted, or it was sort of rated, the salt line on it for salt. So about 4 or 5 years ago, the board made a decision. We had taken, I think then it was a 6 or 8 year average that we had, and committed to that amount of money. Now, I would say this winter was fairly uneventful, but we've used, I think, 87% of our material budget. Now, which came out to 8,000 tons. All the domes are completely full, and I don't want to jinx this, but I hope we're done to the fall.
So what I'm hearing you saying, even though we didn't have major storms, we do have the preparation that we have to prepare just in case to be ready. The costs weren't as high, but we had to still expend funds for that preparation.
Correct. And some of it is not necessarily the total snowfall, but the number of events, the duration, if they fell on a weekend. Do we need to rely on contractors to do that? And so sometimes once you hit that 2-inch mark threshold, it's almost the same expense as if you had 6 inches. And so there's a lot of factors.
I guess my point is, it's quite a burden for you to try to manage that snow removal budget.
Well, the last 3 or 4 years has been easier. But like I say, I feel confident with where we're at, but it only takes one big one, like you said, and that just.
And we typically budget based on our historical trend for normal operating or normal winter weather that we may receive during, the last, 5 to 10 years. However, if we would have a major weather event such as a blizzard, that typically opens the door for additional funding from the state and the federal government to help manage that expense that would come unexpectedly.
And we have, I think, 2 or 3 times in the last 20 years have dealt with FEMA and received money back.
So just a question, Michelle. In addition to the decreasing highway user fund fees, what other streams of revenue from the state are we seeing, or in grants, for example, are we seeing a decrease?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any right now, but I would need to do a little bit of research to see if our grant income has reduced. We're definitely seeing reductions in federal funding. We did see an influx during COVID of ARPA and CARES Act funding. That money is virtually, not flowing in anymore.
Regular programming.
Regular programming. I have to take a take a look at that.
Staff look at that.
Yes, we will.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next item is FY 2025 general fund budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelsey Mace, Chief Financial Officer.
Kim Edlin, Director of Budget and Finance.
And we are here today to present the latest draft of the proposed FY25 general fund budget. So the 25 proposed budget is balanced at $300,648,730. As you can see, education is the largest category at $125.9 million, or 42%, followed by public safety at $82.5 million, or 27%. 2 adjustments were made to revenue in the latest draft. First, revenue related to the sale of cannabis was reduced for the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund portion that cannot be used for general expenses. The second was a minor immaterial balancing adjustment to income tax. Total adjustments were a reduction of $260,000. On the expenditure side, wages and benefits increased due to a personnel request for the engineering department that was proposed by the Personnel Committee but was erroneously removed from the previous draft of the budget. County operations increased due to the rebalancing of the weed control department, which is completely self-supporting. The amount set aside for capital reserves was reduced to balance the budget, and transfers to other funds was reduced based on less support needed by the highway fund. Other budget-neutral changes that were made were to place IT-related equipment requests into the IT department budget. This is to ensure that purchases of IT-related equipment are being done through the IT department. And all these changes are noted on the summary sheets that are part of your packet and highlighted in yellow. So again, I just would like to remind the public of a few upcoming dates. On May 7th, we will be having the public hearing on other rate changes. On May 21st, we will be having the public budget hearing out at Kepler Theater at HCC. And on June 11th is the scheduled adoption of the FY25 budget. So at this time, I would like to open it up to any questions or comments.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Is June 11th a little later than what we typically see? I know in the past, sometimes municipalities have reached out to us, they need to know our final budget before they can set their final budget.
It is. Our public hearing got pushed back a week just because HCC was not available. We usually do it the second week of May, and they just didn't have it available for us, so we had to push it back a week. And then we run into Memorial Day, and then I believe on the 4th, both President Barr and County Administrator Gordon will not be present, which is why it is now at the 11th.
Do we know, is that okay with our municipalities? I just don't want to.
We can double check with everybody to make sure.
A hard place.
Sure.
We have to, if it's possible to bump it up on our end. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yes, it does. Being a former councilman, I understand that. Correct. Good.
So what are the total, what's the total amount of requests for the budget, you know, in aggregate that we did not meet? About 14 million from county operations, 10 million, 9 million, 0.9 from the schools. You had things like Commission on Aging. So what's the deficit between requests and the allocations that we see here?
So in the current proposed draft, from requested is a reduction of 14.6 million.
Total, across the board?
Across, yeah, that's the total.
That's in the general fund.
In the general fund.
In the general fund. That includes, well, that's separate from the school fund, or what?
That would include.
That would include the schools.
Okay, but we had cuts of about 14 million internally in the county from the requested levels, originally requested levels.
The originally requested levels for the general fund were 311 million. We cut 14.6 million to 296.4 million. Across all funds, do you have that information with you today, or do we need to get that?
I don't have it across all funds, no.
That's what I was getting at earlier, Derek, so you're
Just general fund.
exactly what those figures are.
We'll get you the number for across all funds.
Okay. But the major ones that we're not funding are the schools, and then what else?
Ourselves, right?
Yeah, ourselves.
County.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fact of tightening belts, even with us, you know, and everybody else involved. I mean, people just sometimes in our county divisions didn't get what they wanted, and that's why, another reason I'm trying to see who's, you're doing fine. Just-
We cut
I'll stay out of it.
3.4 million from public safety.
Yeah, so we have then only so much revenue, because you have that. And as we saw earlier today, there's been opportunities maybe for revenue. If we had that $4.7 million operating deficit from the 911, that would be $4.7 million more dollars if we'd stayed on top of that one. or if we could just correct it in once or over 3 years, you could potentially gather another $4 or $5 million.
The other thing that we need to keep in mind is that we are funding our capital improvement program at the bare minimum. Our capital improvement program also includes about $14 or $15 million in bond issuance. And if we don't issue those bonds, we would need to cut that $12 to $14 million out of our capital improvement program. When you underfund it and defer expenses for an amount of time that we have, things catch up to you, and we're at a critical point in our capital improvement program needs.
I understand that, and I vote, generally, I'm against borrowing for the types of things, rather pay as we go. But that's $14 or $15 million we normally borrow. And then we have underfunded pension.
Correct.
That is we're about, what, 65%?
Yeah, it's in the mid-60s right now.
Yeah.
60.
And then the other capital improvements that are major things that we're looking at, the courthouse.
Right. Debt service on courthouse replacement would probably be $8 to $10 million annually. So we would we would need to come up with a revenue source for that because we cannot absorb that in our budget.
And then we're expanding EMS.
EMS is expanding. We included $1 million in the budget to expand that.
But it's about $1 million a year over the next number of years to gradually expand that, unless we accelerate a little bit. So, and so then the question is, enhancement of revenue. We're back to looking at that. My expectation from looking at the numbers is that, and looking at the state's economic numbers, their forecasts and stuff, we're not going to be having as much of a surplus as we had last year. In the state's falling numbers, might be delayed here, might be different here a little bit from the state, but it's something we have to understand. So,
do we have an idea of what would be the forecast from our level of what funding we will be required, or by the state, what's being defunded, or what more funding is going to be required or mandated? Do we have any kind of even a guess? Is it 1 million next year, 20 million next year? Do we know what's coming? Probably not, but that's something I'm telling you, it could get catastrophic.
I think the biggest thing that I see coming are the unfunded energy efficiency mandates that are coming related to buildings, related to putting solar arrays on top of rooftops, creating the car overhangs, the covered car parking areas with solar arrays. Those are some of the mandates that are coming that are unfunded.
And PFAS.
That will have big impacts, not just on us, but on, we fund school buildings, so it'll have big impacts on them as well.
Yeah. And then there will be, there's going to be more water purity issues coming down that we're going to have to address.
Environmental issues.
Right.
It'd be nice to know even guesstimate in a year from now what those figures will be, because it might be the one that breaks the camel's back. You just don't know at this point because it's already started.
So
I'd also...
I know the concerns about the disparity grant could disappear, Wayne. I get that. And I understand raising revenue through a small increase in the income tax rate, could get us a little more in the, you don't have to go to 3.2. You could go to 3.2 in a tiered way. Avoid the word progressive, because I know that is an emotional response for some in the community about that. And then there's, the concerns that you expressed, Wayne, about, if we're having this inflation and it's tough on families, it's a tough time to raise a tax on them, right? I mean, I'm trying to go through both sides of this a little bit and understand,
You're making a pretty good argument for me. Keep going.
Yeah, well, And if we raise taxes, concern is that some people will choose to live in Pennsylvania or West Virginia. Now, I'm not sure many people are going to pick up and move and sell their house just to do that, but, you know, when they locate here originally, it might impact their decisions.
Now's a good time to sell the house, though. So just
Well, yeah.
be careful about that.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Again,
right.
economics is not solely a math.
Yeah,
It's a
so-
social science.
Well, and people moving here, they want to see amenities. They want to see that our infrastructure is up to date. They want to see that our courthouse is up to date. They want to see that our detention center is adequate. And if we are underfunding those infrastructure projects, we're not going to be able to attract businesses. We're not going to be able to attract residents and keep those residents and businesses once they do come here.
we got
It's a good balance. You have to find that balance.
We're talking a lot of business right now. We got more than we can handle with $1.5 billion in investments, so there counters your argument on that.
Yeah.
And I'd like for you to explain what the tier tax rate is. You mean tax more people who make more money, and is that fair?
Well,
Explain that. So
no, I will explain it because, you know, when we cut taxes, you reduce some of the revenue that you have to do things for your roads, your parks, and your recreation, and your schools. And I think that impacts people that are, you know, more so at the median income level and below than it does people that have more wealth that they can access. And the people I talk to, you know, people that make, you know, families that have over $100,000 a year, can they afford a little bit more? That's a question. You know, and the counter argument is, well, we don't want to encourage people to leave. It's tough. It's inflation times. But at the end of the day, you know, do you increase revenue so you can fund some of the things that are needed? We're not even funding the school budget at an inflation level, and I understand that clearly. And we're not able to position ourselves for some of the more capital projects, and we're underfunded on some other things substantially, whether it's the pension plan or others. So there's this disparity, this gap between revenue, and the state's not going to give it to us. And 2 years ago, it wasn't hurting the economy at 3.2%.
Why stop at 3.2? Why not go to 3.5?
Yeah, and Commissioner Kiefer,
I knew the answer to that.
Yeah.
Thank goodness the Democrats in Annapolis keep the Republicans in Western Maryland spending under control. I knew the answer to that. You know,
Is it spent
when
with spending?
when you have a progressive tax structure, the people you tax the most are job creators. And Maryland is a very small state. Washington County is a very small, geographically, we border 3 states. We're a very small county. And I am concerned when we have a progressive tax structure, when we, in my opinion, can overtax our citizens. The unintended consequences. Again, I'll refer back to when Martin O'Malley imposed a millionaire's tax on Maryland. People voted with their feet, and they left the state of Maryland. It was easy to do that. And right now, ask our resident realtor. It's easy to sell a house if that's what you want to do. You know, I think of all the leaders of some of our nonprofits, our community college, our hospital, that when they chose to come and locate here, you know, reading headlines in the newspapers, things that they've told me, they looked at the quality of life we have here in Washington County. People from outside our community are coming here to Washington County. I don't think our infrastructure is that bad. I don't think our schools are that bad. I think we have good schools. Everything could be improved, I'm sure, but, you know, some of the smartest people in our community chose to come here because of everything that we're talking about needs to be better. I think we live in a great community.
Wasn't it 3.2% when they moved here in the first place?
I don't know where you're going with that because it took years to build what we have. And I think we need to be careful about our tax rate. I think we need to be careful. And
I agree. Be careful and be
you know,
prudent.
I sit here and I listen, and the school board is not 100% perfect on their budget. We're not 100% perfect on our budget. But it's interesting, when the school board calls for a new school or new construction somewhere, we call that a wish list. But when we want something, it's needs. You know, they could call our needs a wish list too if we just wanted to have that back and forth. I don't think it serves us any good. And we need to keep spending under control. You know, think of the disparity grant for a second. It targets communities that.
I'm in agreement with you. What do you think of that?
I like it. I like it.
Let me interrupt, because we lost 1.6 million of that disparity grant, and when then Budget Secretary Brinkley restoring it, we would have lost it. So you are right, it is volatile. And when we're facing a $2.5 billion deficit in Annapolis and all this, where are they going to go to? They're going to pick these funds like disparity grant, Parks and Rec money, POS, and they're going to take that.
Yeah.
So
and think of the disparity grant.
Put the state down, I agree with you.
We should go have lunch or something, Jeff. I like it. Think of the disparity grant, if I can, real quick.
Yeah.
The disparity grant targets, I don't know if this is the right terminology, I don't want to be offensive, but poorer communities when you look at counties in Maryland compared to the state as a whole. And the disparity grant says, oh, well, raise taxes in the poor, that's your economic way to make your community better. Raise taxes on a poorer community. My economic schooling, that doesn't make sense.
But we're not raising taxes on a poor community, because even if you don't have it tiered, their taxes below the median level of income hardly goes up at all.
That's right, you just want to tax the business owners.
No, I'm just saying,
Job creators.
even if you don't have it tiered, the reality is, it doesn't hit at the lower levels. But not having services hits at the lower levels. Not having enough money for some of the programs does disproportionately harm people at the lower levels. Not having park and recreation programs that we could have disproportionately hits people that don't have the means, the discretionary income to do other entertaining things.
I think we have great parks in Washington County. I spent the last end of summer taking my daughter to different parks all over the county. We have some beautiful county, state, national, municipal parks.
Yes, we do, but some of the programs aren't there. But this is a discussion I want to have in the open, okay? And I'd like to hear from John Barr on this.
Well, I've made it very clear. I didn't agree when they cut it several years ago. And, it's hard for me to continually to go to Annapolis and ask for assistance and funding when we aren't fully helping ourselves. And that's just the bottom line. I don't believe personally that whether the tax rate is 2.95 or 3.2, and by the way, that's the maximum, so I don't know where the 3.5 discussion comes from, but
the 3.5, I was being.
Was theoretical.
Yeah.
Right.
I
understand.
A little tongue-in-cheek there.
Right.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think anyone making under the median household statewide probably doesn't, the tax rate, whether it's 2.95 or 3.2, really doesn't affect them, because I think at the end of the year, when they file their taxes, it's immaterial. And we sit here and we look at inflation, we look at the needs of the school, and I fully understand their challenges. I feel for them. We talk about a new courthouse. We talk about a new detention center that's busting at the seams. Frankly, I feel like we need to raise the rate. I've said it over and over and over, and, we need to go back to the 3.2 where it was. And when we go to Annapolis and stand up and say we have a need, there's no looking down your nose over your glasses that we don't take care of ourselves.
I think we're getting way too deep in the weeds right here for this discussion.
I don't believe what you say at Annapolis at 3.2%. We're only going to get what we get because we're at number 2-1 by a political party. You can make that, we got to put stake in the game. When we did raise those income tax rate, we had 30 career firefighters we were hiring on a SAFER grant that only paid for 3 years. We knew our police needed a raise, which eventually been a $4 million raise, and we knew we were having trouble with the EMS companies that we're going to have to take on a transition of some of them, and we did that. But the economic time was better. And Commissioner Kiva is right. They did take some of the disparity grant from us, and it wouldn't have been for Senator or Secretary Brinkley, former Senator Brinkley, restoring that, it is volatile. And you go talk about the $2.5 billion deficit we're facing. We're going to raise taxes, a progressive tax on people who earn a hard living, move to success, and you want to charge them more? I find that it's unbelievable that people have worked hard and made 10 years of college and a career and stuff, and you're going to charge them more money because they make more. Well, maybe their expenses are higher. But that's just my thoughts. There was a different time when we raised those taxes. The economy was better, and now we're not. And you're going to raise water rates. We're going to raise phone rates. Where does it stop on the average person that we're going to average or leverage taxes against out of their paycheck?
Good, I wanted to hear that.
And that's what you heard.
Yeah.
I don't like this progressive taxing people just because they're successful.
But that's what we have. That's the national system and that's the state system.
If you want to make an argument that people, as a former realtor of 10 years, you want to make an argument we need to build better schools, that'll attract people. I did not know one person wanted to move here because we wanted a better jail or courthouse. I don't find them as adequate reasons to raise taxes to make people move here. You want to build better schools, that's going to attract people. Look right across the river over.
Well, you're making an assumption that that all 5 commissioners want to encourage people to move here. I'm not sure that that's where I'm at.
$5 billion in economic development. We're not having trouble attracting business here.
No, but I'm
tell me how I'm wrong.
I'm just saying my motivation is not to make this a magnet for tens of thousands of people to move here. I want to protect the character and nature of our county as it is, with some smart growth.
Canal the past 2 weeks. We have beautiful parks. Well, you're right. I've been to all the parks at one point in time. Great parks. I don't know what programs you're saying we're lacking that we're providing there. We have great parks.
Well, I understand some of the summer programs are not existing in the future.
What summer program?
Well, I see that from the school system already.
No, I'm talking about our parks, county parks, not school system. What programs in our local parks?
I wasn't speaking